What's up? How's it going? Welcome to today's video all about Notion. My name is Carly. I'm an influencer, entrepreneur, and business owner from Canada, and on this channel you will find vlogs of my everyday life as well as helpful tips like how to use Notion, how to create a podcast, and everything in between. In today's video, I'm going to be running you through exactly how I use Notion for my organic social media. Notion is a tool that my agency implemented in the middle of 2021, and it truly has been life-changing for me, my business, and my team. I used to be the person who would use Google Calendar and Trello and Canva and all of these things combined together, but Notion literally solves all of my problems in one, and I love it. So if you are an influencer, entrepreneur, business owner, or somebody who just wants to get their social media together, this video is for you. Let's jump in. As you can see here, this is the main hub. We have Instagram, YouTube, podcast, Reels, TikToks, Cocktails, which is my IGTV series, my blog, as well as a place for weekly content. As you can see here, everything is laid out by the month. So I have January all the way down to December already done. Now this layout in Notion is called a Kanban or a table. You also can organize it too by different things like deadlines. You can also do it by status or assignee, but I like this type of layout because it's very similar to Trello. Trello was the platform that I used the most before I switched over to Notion, and that's why I still to this day love using the Kanban board situation. Now, as you can see here, January through March, I have all of these different pages underneath every single month. Now, normally when you're doing this type of table, it normally is like a workflow. So you would take this one, you would drag it, you would be like, okay, this is done, and eventually it would make it to the end of your workflow. I obviously set it up like a calendar, and it just stays the way that it is. So let's pop into one of these pages. This is for January 1st of 2022, and so I'll click into this page and it will open here. Up on the top I have the title, which is 1, and I make it a lifestyle shoot. This again is something I'll teach you guys in the video about content strategy. Every single card has this template here, and this is a custom template that I literally just made. When you open a new Notion page, what you can actually do, it looks like this when it's empty, and they have all of these templates. Now you can make your own templates, you can buy templates online. Notion has a bunch of already pre-made templates that you can download and you can import, but for me personally, I know how I like to work and I know how I like to do things, so I actually just created the template on my own. Right here, obviously, the header is content, and this is where I keep my 2 picture files. Here is where I'm going to write my caption. This really helps me out because everything is in one place and it helps me with my workflow, so that if I ever hire someone on in the future, they know, okay, the captions are in here, the hashtags are in here, everything is in here. Let's say their job is to schedule and make sure my content goes out. They can pull everything from this Notion page, and then they can do their job. They don't have to scramble and be like, oh, can I get the caption for this? Or can I get the hashtags for this? Or can you send me this content? It's all in Notion. At the very end, we have analytics and standout comments, and this is something that I just kind of started to do. So for this, I just plan on writing small things like number of likes or number of comments, saves, shares, that kind of stuff, as well as any standout comments. After that, it literally is just rinse and repeat over and over and over again for all of the photos and the inspo and the posts that I have in that column. Next up, we have YouTube. Now, YouTube is a little bit more organized, but also a little different than Instagram. If we pop into this tab right here, this is the video that I am filming right now. With my first little section, this is titles and descriptions. This is where I will workshop the title. This is where I will do a bunch of things. So the first one here is keywords. Next up, we obviously have video title here. Next up, we have the content tab. Here we have research and notes, and as you can see, here are all the notes that I made on the flow of this video. And so here I have obviously the intro. You guys already saw the intro, the Notion walkthrough, Instagram, YouTube, the podcast, everything in between. And this is really where I go through and I ideate what the video will look like. I don't do this much for vlogs, but for sit down videos, I like to do this to make sure that I'm hitting all of the points that I need to on the video. and not forgetting to say something or to show something. Here I write down everything from, okay, I post bi-weekly on YouTube, I do this, I XYZ. I write it all down so that when I'm filming, I don't forget. Next up we have this script section. I don't really use this one a lot, but I have it in here for the times that I am doing videos that require scripts or voiceovers and less talking to the camera. The script and the B-roll section, which is right down here next, kind of go the most hand in hand. If I plan on doing a video that is mostly voiceover, that is mostly B-roll, these two go the best with each other, and what I will do is write down my script first and then ideate what the B-roll looks like to match the script. I will go in, obviously, after I've ideated, and I will shoot all of these shots, and then once they're done, there's just a little checkbox here, and I can click that they're done. So when I go to film this video, or when I go to shoot the B-roll, I know what needs to be done and what is already done. Down here, I have my launch checklist. This is something I really enjoy because I'm the kind of person that likes to keep track of where I'm at in the process. As you can see, this says start here. I start with a title with keywords, then I'll go in, I'll do the featured image, the brief description, and then the links mentioned. Now, you may notice that there is no section for editing here. I personally have a YouTube editor, so I will send all of my files and my videos over to her, and then once I get it back, that's when we kind of get into the bottom part where I export the video, I upload it, I do all of those things. But if you're editing your own videos, this is where you can add an extra checkbox that's like edit video. And with that ends us with our sit down video card. Now, like I mentioned, I do sit down videos and I also do vlogs every single week. While I can have a really organized sit down video strategy, vlogging is completely different. I have all of these cards that are vlog cards that have different layouts. Here, as you can see, same type of thing up here with the titles and the descriptions, but then I pop down here and I have a weekly schedule. I think that a lot of times I could sit in my house all week and be like, okay, this is the vlog. There are things that I do outside of my house, and I like to put these on here and reference them so that I remember to bring my vlog camera so that, for example, if I have a haircut on Friday or I'm going to hang out with some friends, I'll remember to bring the camera because it's on my schedule, and I won't be like, oh my god, can't vlog today, totally forgot, have to vlog in my house again. So that's really why I like this weekly schedule. It honestly is just some quick notes. I don't follow it to a T every single time, but it's just nice to have like an at a glance calendar. Next up, we have a section for thumbnail, but like I said, you can also just have it in the media tab. And then we have the exact same launch checklist. Next up, we have the podcast. If you guys are unfamiliar, I actually do run a podcast called Hey Bitches. It is a sex, dating, relationships, and love podcast. It is so much fun, and if you guys want to check it out, I will leave the link in the description below. For me personally, the podcast comes out 2 times a week. It is laid out exactly the same as Instagram and YouTube, which is month over month, and then as well is laid out every Tuesday and Thursday. This episode I have actually created and recorded, and it is way more filled out, so I'm excited to run through this with you guys. Up here, obviously, we have the titles. Rarely do I change my podcast titles because the SEO is not the same as YouTube, so if it's a title, I'm going with the title. Down here, we have titles and descriptions. This is very similar to the YouTube one as well. We have the title here, the description, as well as important links. If I mention anything in the podcast episode that I would like to link and to share with you guys, I make sure to put it there so that when I'm writing the description, I can make sure to have those links. I also put this in here because if I ever have guests, I like to include their social media or anything that they are talking about, so it's easy for my listeners to access it. Next up, we have the pod notes / the episode flow. Very similar to YouTube, I just jot down a bunch of bullet points before I record so that when I'm recording, I kind of have a structure to go through. I'm the kind of person I could get on one point and I could talk and talk and talk and then be like, oh my god, what is my next point? So I like to do podcast notes because of that. Down here, we have the hybrid audio / social section. I didn't want to make an entire separate calendar for my Instagram content for the podcast. It really just didn't make sense to me, so I thought I would just do it on the cards. So right here, I have audio snippets, and this is 3 snippets that I pull out of my podcast that are funny, that are cliffhangers, that I think would just do well as feed posts or reels or stories, and I make sure that they're all in here. Next up here, we have the Instagram feed post. As you can see, I have the featured image as well as the next slide. Next up, we have the feed post caption. This is also a place where if I had somebody that I was working with, I could write this caption and then they could go through and they could schedule it and they could get it on Instagram for me. This is also a place that sometimes too, I will just write this and maybe I won't schedule it in the moment, but when I sit down to schedule the content, it'll all be here and it's just copy paste. Next up, we have the reel. Very similar concept. We have the Instagram reel here as well as the reels caption, so I can make sure that when I export this, I can just schedule it. I guess you can't schedule reels, but when I export it, I can just paste the caption and go. Down here we have stories. These change in terms of the color scheme for every single episode, so I make sure to have these in here because I have to change, for example, the episode number and the title and all of that depending on what came before it. So I make sure I have these all in here so that when I am ready to post the stories, I can just download these, or for me personally, I have them all on my external hard drive, but if I was working with someone, they could download these and upload them right away. Right here, I have the TikTok section. I personally don't have a TikTok for my podcast. If there are times where I'm filming it or taking video content of the podcast, I wanted to have a section where I could upload that and caption that, so it's all here that when I'm ready to post it, I can download it. Similar to the other launch checklists, I have one in this podcast tab. This makes sure that I stay on track and on task when creating the social assets specifically. Every single one of these pages is exactly the same, the workflow is exactly the same, and that is how I use my podcast calendar. Next up, we have Reels and TikTok. I am going to go through just one of these calendars because they are essentially the exact same thing, because Reels and TikTok are the same types of content. When you click into here, it is very, very simple, okay? Here we have the audio link. This is the link of the audio to use on Reels. It's not a link to the video that I saw the audio used in or anything like that. It is a link to the actual audio page. Right next to it, I have the trend description and ideas. So this is where I like to write down what are the videos that people are really making with this sound and how can I make it my own, or how can I incorporate it with my own flair. I wrote this note here just to know that, okay, this audio is about this, because obviously I can't click it and listen to it. It'll take me to Instagram, which then I'll listen to it. Next up, we have something very similar to the Instagram page, which is the reel, the caption, the hashtags, as well as analytics and standout comments. This is the TikTok calendar. It is not as well filled out as the Reels calendar, but the sentiment is exactly the same. You click into here, it has the audio link, the trend idea. The only kind of difference is that I have a text overlay part here, because for me, if you follow me on TikTok, you guys know that so much of my content is dance content with text overlay on top. So this is where if I'm planning and figuring out what I want the video to say or anything like that, I will write it down on here so that when I actually go to post and create the TikTok, I'm not sitting here trying to think of what I want to say and then typing it out and then thinking and then typing it out. It just doesn't work for me. Here I have the video area. Obviously, this is where I drag and drop the reel. I will actually use SnapTik, which is what a lot of people use to remove the TikTok watermark, and then I will upload it in here because I probably will never re-upload it on TikTok, but it's nice to have it on here without the logo because I might repurpose it for Reels. Next up, we have the blog page. Very similar to all the other ones, it is a year at a time. I'm a big year at a time, but also month at a time planner. Popping into this card, here is what we have. Up here we have the title. Now I know there's so many different ways to do blog SEO, and personally for me, because I blog because I enjoy it and less because I want to page rank and I want to do those things, rarely do the titles really change when I've put them up here. Right here is where I have my URL text. Sometimes if the title is too long, it looks messy and it's also not easily shareable. So I will look at the title and I will go, okay, what is the short but understandable version that I can have as the URL text here, and I'll write it down there so that when I create the post, I can just copy and paste it and I'll know exactly what I wanted to say. Next up, we have post outline, which is very similar to the YouTube notes, my podcast notes, that kind of thing. This is where I write down important information or the workflow of the blog post, so when I'm writing, I can make sure, oh yeah, I wanted to talk about that, and then I can expand on it when I'm writing, but I don't really need to expand on it in the notes. Next up, we have important links. If I'm referencing something in the blog, or there's something that I talk about that isn't necessarily a blog post, it may be a podcast or a YouTube video, I make sure to have it here so that when I type it out, I can make those words a clickable link. Next, we have the featured image so that when I am ready to go in and create the blog post, and I do use WordPress, so when I'm ready to go create, I can actually just download it from Notion, upload it, done and dusted. Next up here we have in-blog photos. This is something that I kind of lack on as a blogger that I am trying to get better with, is not just having a wall of text and having it separated by titles and headers and images. And I also really like this because this is content that I can repurpose in the future, be it a YouTube thumbnail or a cropped down Instagram post. I can use this content in other facets of my business. Down here we have social assets. Down here we have another launch checklist, which is very self-explanatory. For me, I do actually write my posts in WordPress. I don't write them in Notion. I'm sure that I could probably do a drop-down tab and I could write it in there, but it just didn't make sense for me because all of my posts are going to live on WordPress anyways, so it doesn't make sense for me to write an entire blog post and copy and paste it out of Notion. And with that, it takes us to the end of how I use Notion to create a content calendar. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a comment down below telling me your favorite thing to use on Notion, because I'm always open to new Notion hacks. Make sure to subscribe to the channel before you go. Like I said, I post videos twice a week. On Monday, I post informational sit-down videos like this, and on Fridays, I post weeks of my life that show influencer life, business, and everything in between. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on today's video. Make sure to give it a big thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!
Entertainment.